Saturday night, your boy DELRAY, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to get right into it. The hypocrisy and the latest news involving the former lawyer of Death Row Records, David Kenner. I'll wait for y'all to come up in here. The former lawyer, David Kenner, Death Row Records, sentenced to probation in a contempt case. Does it speak a little bit more to the situation involving Death Row Records and the downfall of Death Row Records? Not only that, but Suge Knight coming out talking about the alleged betrayal of Tupac after his death by some of Tupac's comrades. And that part's going to be real interesting because I have a picture to paint for you and to show you how basically Tupac died for something no more than a moment in time because of all of what's happening now and all of what's being said. So come on up in here. We're going to talk about it. Boxing UK, Lonnie Snow, Miss Matthews, what's up? This one's going to be interesting, y'all. This is going to be interesting, ladies and gentlemen. I want y'all to know that David Kenner, the former lawyer for Death Row Records, was cited for contempt. Former lawyer for Tupac and Suge Knight was sentenced this past Friday to 1 year of unsupervised probation and will have to pay a fine after he admitted to violating a court order by sharing protected discovery material with reporters in the run-up to his client's 2023 trial. And that trial would have been none other than the trial of prize from the Fugees. David Kenner, who's 82 years old now, agreed to plead guilty to 1 count of criminal contempt as part of a deal with prosecutors that ensured he would not face jail time. And the question that I'm asking is that an implication into the situation involving Death Row? Do you think that there may have been more malfeasance that was discovered other than what was discovered in the case that Afeni and her attorneys filed against David Kenner and Suge Knight at that particular time? I wouldn't want to infer that, but like I say, a lot of people usually lead with, how crooked or how whatever they think somebody is. I like to stick to the facts. The fact of the matter is the Malibu mansion, as well as a lot of the other condos and things like that, were in Death Row's name. David Kenner at the time was living in one of those, the mansion out in Malibu, if you will. And all of those things were built to Tupac after his death, which was illegal, immoral, and a whole bunch of other things. But the news as of today, as of Friday, the former Tupac's former lawyer, David Kenner, Tupac and Suge Knight, and Death Row's former lawyer, David Kenner, was sentenced Friday to 1 year of unsupervised probation and will have to pay a fine after he admitted to violating a court order by sharing protected discovery material with reporters in the run-up to his client's 2023 trial. David Kenner is 82 years old. He agreed to plead guilty to 1 count of criminal contempt as part of a deal with prosecutors that ensured he would not face jail time. It initially appeared as if the U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta might reject the deal in regards to David Kenner, might reject the plea deal that he took in regards to David Kenner during Friday's virtual hearing, saying lack of punishment for David Kenner might send a wrong signal to other lawyers bound by protective orders. So what they're saying is David Kenner in the prize case, prize from the Fuji's case, was bound by a protective order, and David Kenner then in turn violated that protective order. Judge Mehta ultimately accepted the deal after the parties agreed. He retained the right to impose a maximum fine of $5,000 on David Kenner. So he got probation and was fined $5,000. This is the former lawyer of 2Pac, Death Row, and Suge Knight, and they said maybe it's a small but symbolic thing, but it would make a difference to me. Mehta said of the fine. Kenner's lawyer, David Kenner's lawyer, Barrett Boss, did not push back on the $5,000 fine, but told Mehta that his client had spent $1.4 million out of pocket on expenses arising from Prize's defense. David Kenner appeared virtually from his office in California, called the conviction a low point in his 56-year-long career, and admitted that his conduct was reckless. So David Kenner, the former lawyer of 2Pac, Death Row, and Suge Knight, sentenced to probation, fined $5,000, admitted in a virtual hearing in court on Friday that this situation involving the prize from the Fuji's case was a 56-year low in his career after practicing law for 56 years, and that he was reckless. And David Kenner basically accepted responsibility for what he did. He said, "I'm deeply sorry to be standing before you, and I fully accept responsibly." David Kenner told the judge. Amazing. And so this only leads you to believe what I told you guys before a few years ago, as well as what's going on right now, that when 2Pac was freed from jail on bail, right? That initial contract that he had signed, the handwritten one, right? And then I showed you guys the one that he ultimately signed with Interscope and Warner Brothers, which was the real legal contract. So I got to ask you this question, and what I don't think most people know, if they didn't really know it, did Suge Knight know about that contract? You see, because as we see now, David Kenner is capable of doing things against the law, as it was shown here in this particular case, but may have not gotten caught, if you will, from that perspective, right? And so I always have wondered, in the situation involving 2Pac Shakur and 2Pac's bail, did Suge Knight know about the contract that David Kenner agreed to with Warner Brothers and Interscope, from the perspective of 2Pac getting out of jail, 2Pac, and all of those things? That's the $1 million question. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, like I said, whether Suge knew or not, from all intents and purposes, right? When it came down to the case involving Afeni suing Suge Knight and David Kenner, all of the things, the jewelry, the houses, the condos, and a whole bunch of those expenses was shifted towards 2Pac, in which later we came to understand and know were not legal, and it wasn't supposed to happen from that perspective, right? And that's when Jimmy Iovine them stepped in. And remember, I told you guys, this is bringing more to the forefront, if you will. Remember, I told you that when Afeni had the meeting with David, was supposedly meet up with Suge Knight, Death Row, and the whole 9 yards. Remember, I told you that nobody showed up from Death Row, right? And people were like, well, David Kenner, he owned piece of death row and all of this, that, and the other. And I told you guys, this is proof, in fact, that Tupac had fired David Kenner because he couldn't show up on Tupac's behalf when it came time to negotiate in regards to Tupac's master recordings. Remember, Tupac had the problem because he had called and wanted, remember, Yasmin Fuller basically stated that Tupac wanted his music, the masters to his music from the studio, right? Right? And the reason why Tupac was not allowed to receive his masters from the studio, it was because David Kenner said so. I don't know how many of y'all really know that story. Tupac tried to get his masters from the studio, and it was David Kenner that said no, right? Not Suge Knight, but David Kenner. Okay, this is when Tupac now wants that audit that everybody talks about. So now we come fast forward some odd 28 years later, and we see in another case dealing with hip hop, dealing with Pras from the Fugees, David Kenner has been sentenced as of Friday to unsupervised probation. This is a lawyer who has practiced law for 56 years. He's been sentenced to unsupervised probation and also fined $5,000 for going against a court order that a judge made during the case in where David Kenner illegally shared information with reporters that he wasn't supposed to. And I don't know if that was a legal tactic from that perspective, trying to get ahead of the case or trying to give his client some advantage. Usually that's what that's about. But we see now that David Kenner, is now on probation and now fined and has been sanctioned as an attorney. And David Kenner, to be fair on his part, he accepted responsibility and said that he was wrong. And I think, when you are caught doing something wrong, I think that's the best thing to do because nobody's perfect, right? From that perspective. But check this out. When you understand that, and then you go back to the Tupac situation, it only makes you think in regards to David Kenner, who he really is. Now he's 82 years old. He's still practicing law and all of those things. It brings you back to the Tupac situation involving that bail agreement, involving the situation in regards to Suge Knight going to jail, the situation involving, I wouldn't even say Reggie Wright Jr. because he always wanted to be a part more important to the situation than he actually was. And like I said before, as you see with the situation with Pras, Pras was not represented correctly, and he's now trying to get a new trial in regards to his case. Think about it. David Kenner is sanctioned in Pras' case. Now Pras trying to get a new case. I mean, get his case renewed and retried again from that perspective. So we'll see what happens with that. But the hypocrisy of this all of this, right? I shift the conversation now to Suge Knight. Suge Knight on Breakbeat Media recently talked about, and this is all intertwined. This is all interwoven into the Death Row story, right? Suge Knight recently spoke on Breakbeat Media, and he was talking about how the Outlaws performed songs with Tupac's enemies after Tupac died. Suge Knight talked about how not only the Outlaws, but he said Snoop, was taking pictures with Puffy and so on and so forth after Tupac died, and how they allegedly recorded with, Big Dre from the situation in dealing with the Tupac's murder. I want y'all to understand this. If you think about this, 20 some odd years later, right? Tupac basically died for nothing. And I'm going to give it to you. I got to give it to you. I got to tell you why. When you think about all of the things that have been said over the years, when Suge Knight speaks and says, well, the Outlaws recorded with, Little C's and so on and so forth, right? The hypocritical part about all of this, it seems as though is it's who's saying it is what matters the most. And I'm gonna give it to you like this. So Suge Knight is saying, well, the Outlaws, they recorded with Little C's, and Snoop took pictures with Puffy, and they was all supposed to be Tupac homeboys. Let me explain something to you. At that particular time, Tupac was not going around accepting everybody else's beef as his own, right? Tupac had his problems involving his problems prior to coming to death row, and those were Tupac problems, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. When Tupac came to death row, it was not Snoop's nor the Outlaws, but people choose whatever side they want to choose, right? To take on Tupac's beef. But a lot of people did. They was riding with Tupac. It was hip hop. It was going back and forth. But let me give you the bigger picture. The bigger picture is this. Even Tupac, right, at some point said that, he was trying to sell records, and the beef in itself wasn't really all that important to him from that perspective. And he said, every time I see Biggie, I might not rush Biggie. These are Tupac's words. Every time I see Biggie, I might not rush Biggie because I might not be feeling like that, right? Like I told y'all before, even the situation with Nas, for the first time, August 11th at the House of Blues, Tupac and Nas doing the East Coast, West Coast thing. Tupac really didn't know what the tension was going to be from the perspective when he saw Nas as the House of Blues. I'm telling you, because I was standing right next to Tupac, right? They walked up, they shook hands. Everything was cool, it was all love, right? Tupac then goes back and hears um um the Fake Thug, I forgot the message, the song, the message that Nas did, right? He heard the song and talk about the fake thugs and all of this gusto and all of that stuff, right? So then Tupac, a few days later, goes to the MTV Music Awards because Tupac hadn't heard that yet. And then that's when the confrontation, and Tupac was a little bit upset at Nas based on the fact that Nas had said those things in that song, but did not tell him that he said those things in that song. And it was like a slight diss, right? At the House of Blues on August 11th when he seen Tupac later at the MTV Video Music Awards. So Tupac was a little bit upset. But even though Tupac was upset with that situation, see, most people don't know this. Even though Tupac was upset with that situation, when he seen Nas at the MTV Video Music Awards, people thought it was going to go down because Tupac was, he had told everybody, yeah, Nas and da da da, and he dissed me and this, that, and the other. We was just at the House of Blues. He ain't tell me none of that shit and blah, blah, blah. But so when Tupac and Nas see each other at the MTV Video Music Awards, Tupac approached him. They have their conversation, right? Well, you can say it wasn't a Pac Dios, but I'm telling you how Pac perceived it. You understand what I'm saying? It's not about what you or I say in regards to what Tupac and how Tupac read it at that particular time, because I'm telling you, I was there at the House of Blues. And so anything relating to a thug and any kind of music, if somebody was mentioning thug, Tupac was, taking it as if it was something against him. You understand what I'm saying? I'm telling you because I was there, right? So listen. So now they see each other at the MTV Video Music Awards, and Tupac and Nas come to a consensus. And then, unlike what Nas didn't do, Tupac did. Tupac told Nas, well, I dissed you in this song, and I dissed you in that song, and I dissed you in this song, and it was supposed to be removed, right? But unfortunately, Tupac was shot and killed in Vegas before it could be removed. And once Tupac died, they chose not to change anything and kept it on the record and left it raw and released it on the Machiavelli album after Tupac died. These are facts, right? And so now I say that to say this. When Suge Knight says that somehow, some way, Snoop and them were wrong for, taking pictures with Puffy and making amends, and the Outlaws were wrong for recording with Little C's and them. Well, let's look at the big picture. I ask you this. Suge Knight just recently said free Keefy D. Right? Right? Think about it. Suge Knight just said free Keefy D. Not only that, right? But Keefy D, and to be able to forgive somebody, when Suge Knight says free Keefy D, we got to look at the fact that Keefy D went on record and said that he had witnessed when the bullets were flying from the car, and what he had thought at that particular time. He said he thought Suge Knight was dead, and he witnessed Suge Knight being shot in the head. But in 2023/2024, Suge Knight says free Keefy D, the person who's saying that he was in the car in which Suge Knight was shot from. So I think the big picture is, right, everybody can forgive anybody at the time that they're ready. Because when Suge Knight says free Keefy D, it would make him more a hypocrite in saying free Keefy D than it would in 2Pac in the Outlaws recording with Little C's, right? Because their beef was at that time just on wax from that particular point, and they had known each other, like Suge Knight knew Keefy D, back when they were young, growing up, as Keefy D had explained, right? He had knew him and he understood where he came from. So when we talk about forgiveness, right, it would be hypocritical of Suge to point out the fact that Snoop had made amends with Puffy, who he really didn't have a beef with, and that the Outlaws had made amends with Little C's and everybody else who they really didn't have a beef with from that perspective, right? And everybody was cool. But I understand sometimes people like to speak on things for the excitement and the entertainment purposes. But when we're dealing with that, this has shown that men can move forward. And it takes a lot for Suge Knight. Think about it. Keefy D saying, yo, I was in the car. I did this. I did that. My nephew did this. My nephew did that. And then all of a sudden, not only that, then for Suge Knight to turn around, according to reports, court reports, and as well as news reports in the courtroom from when the judge basically said that he didn't believe what Orlando said in the courtroom when Orlando came and testified on Suge's behalf, and Suge paid him to do so. You understand what I'm saying? So now you back it up to 2Pac. What did 2Pac die for? If everybody forgave everybody, what did 2Pac die for? Somebody whispering or allegedly whispering something's in 2Pac's ear and him running over there for was something that was a moment in time where men could grow old one day and begin to say, you know what, man, we were young at that particular time and we were beefing at that particular time, man, forgive me. But there was a lot of people that lost their lives in regards to that. So I believe that nobody died in vain from that shit. You understand what I'm saying? Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a bunch of foolishness, man. Like what we talking about? And then, like I said, once again, when you think about the big picture, the Outlaws had a right to forgive Little C's. Little C's them had a right to forgive the Outlaws. Snoop had a right to basically make amends, which he really didn't have to make amends with Puffy and deal with Puffy how he wanted to deal with Puffy. Because isn't it a fact that Keefy D said that he had seen Suge after the situation? After the situation in Vegas, didn't Keefy D say that? He ran into Suge and they talked or whatever. So nothing transpired. So then I go back to the situation with 2Pac. When you really truly think about it, what did 2Pac die for? What did 2Pac die for? I'm asking the chat, what did 2Pac die for? When you really break this down to really what it was about, he died for nothing. Posturing and believing that something was that really wasn't. Nonsense, 2020. Nothing at all. Think about it. And we consistently fall into these traps, man. Like I said, once again, and now we rewind back. You know, my thing is, and I always ask this question, um, from the perspective of Tupac, and like because I don't think Tupac really cared about all of the other stuff. I think Tupac wanted to really, truly, honestly take care of his family. That's why he didn't mind giving up the power of attorney when he got out of prison. You know what I mean? Because he really was trying to take care of his family. You know, but at the end of the day, when it came down to it, you know, Tupac began to see the light came on, if you will. That's why he fired David Kenner. That's why he fired Reggie Wright Jr. Right? You understand what I'm saying? Because he was ready to leave death row. Absolutely, Meg D. What up, Antonio D? John Doe, Levette, Dr. Easy Day, 20 Natural Immunity, Mr. Block Ice 22, Rossi Carrera. Yeah, I mean, like I said, once again, so now think about that. You got to think about that. So when Suge Knight says, yeah, you seen people, siding with Tupac's enemies and blah, blah, well, I wouldn't say, Tupac was yelling enemies from that perspective, but Tupac, once again, would send a conflicting message when he would say, okay, every time I see Biggie, in the last interview he did, he said, every time I see Biggie, I might not rush him because I might not feel like that. Right? So if he might not feel like that every time, and you've taken the full totality of his beef on as his partner or homeboy, right? Then what have you really taken on? Because he say he might not feel like that all the time. But the people that he beefing with may conjure up different feelings when they see you. So like you say, at the end of the day, hey, it really, Janine Hollis, what's happening? Natural immunity. Like I said, so check this out. And the situation, and I'm gonna get into this, the situation involving Keith VD, right? Listen to this, y'all. New information. And I want to share this with you because a lot of people don't know this. Do you know that when Keefe D signed on to do the Death Row Chronicles, right? And I'm gonna give it to you like this. They basically, Keefe D basically set itself up, but Keefe D didn't understand what was going on. Listen to this. In the summer of 2017, Greg Kading and Dorsey, which was another police officer, signed on as consultants for Death Row Chronicles, whose producers managed to get Davis, Keefe D, to sit down for studio interviews. Seated at a desk in an empty office 50 feet from the studio, listen, police officer Dorsey listened by headset and texted follow-up questions to the producers as Davis treaded carefully through the questioning. So while Keefe D was interviewing for Death Row Chronicles, one of the police officers was in a whole nother room texting questions to the producers and giving Keefe D follow-up questions. Mind you, that Greg Kading was the one who got him, and this is in 2017, after the proffer agreement, right? Keefe D still talking. He wants to go on Death Row Chronicles. They got him to come on there and talk. And here it is, one of the officers is sitting in another room texting the producers of Death Row Chronicles follow-up questions to ask Keefe D, as Keefe D treaded carefully through the questioning. And basically, listen, the plan was nearly exposed when Davis was escorted down a hall that passed Dorsey. Listen, they said the plan was exposed, y'all. What plan? What plan? What plan did they have conjured up? Right? Y'all listening to me? Y'all better listen to what I'm telling you now. I'm giving you the game. It said the plan was nearly exposed when Keefe D was escorted down a hall that passed Dorsey's, the former police officer, Dorsey's listening post. He had a listening post where he was listening to the interview that they were doing with Keefe D, listening post, and briefly stared at him through a window as he went by. Dorsey said he looked in the office and locked eyes on me, Dorsey said, who by then had gone public about his own opinion of Keefe D's culpability. They even describe how Keefe D arrived, y'all. Say Keefe D arrived in shorts and a t-shirt. Keefe D initially balked at sitting down without a suit on, but eventually relented. Was Keefe D getting paid? Probably so. You see what I'm saying? Was he getting paid for the interview? Probably so. They said he was very cagey in the interviews. He was careful about how he worded his answers and had a lawyer present with him in the studio for the interview, right? Dorsey says, when the series was being aired, Dorsey contacted the Las Vegas Police Department's Metro's Homicide Bureau and suggested the officers watch Davis' interview on Death Row's Chronicle. Wow. So when the series was aired, police officer Dorsey contacted the Las Vegas Police Department Homicide Bureau and suggested that they watch the Keefe D interview on the Death Row Chronicles, which premiered in February 2018, a week before Unsolved. The profile of Davis was about to get much bigger. Dorsey says he reached out to Metro's Homicide Bureau for a simple goal. What was the goal, y'all? I made it my mission, Dorsey said. I made it my mission to get the detectives to reopen the case, which they did. Phenomenal, right? You see what I'm saying? At the time, Davis was in the process of digging his hole deeper with his memoir, Compton Street Legend, Notorious Keefe D's street level accounts of Tupac and Biggie's murders, Death Row Origins, Suge Knight, Puffy Combs, Crooked Cops, co-authored by Yusef Jah. The 225-page paperback is a readable and remorseless advertisement of Davis's life as a drug dealer. You see how they put that? A readable and remorseless advertisement of Davis's life as a drug dealer. He admits providing the proffer and substantial cooperation in exchange for a pass on a federal narcotics case. He acknowledges he was riding in the white Cadillac at the time of the shooting and passed the murder weapon into the back seat, all of which can be used against him. Prosecutors argue Keefe D's message to readers on the back of the book won't help his case. Listen, it says on the back of Keefe D's book, the last eyewitness to the Tupac's murder telling his story. My God. My God. My God. I'm going to say that one more time for the people that didn't hear me. On the back of Keefe D's book, it is said in quotations, a quote from Keefe D. It says, he said, the last living eyewitness to Tupac's murder telling his story. Eyewitness. Right? You know, and one of the more eloquent parts of what Keefe D said in sounding as we know already, he's basically said, if I were an army, I was a 5-star general. If we were a city, I was the mayor. If we were a country, I was President Obama. These are quotes from Keefe D's book, right? Amazing. Amazing. And another thing, Mike Dorsey, murder rap director, right? Mike Dorsey basically said, in quote, he has to know that he can't talk about this case that way he did in his proffer deal. I think Keefe saw all this attention on his story and wanted to be the one to tell it. That's from Mike Dorsey, the murder rap director. Right? Dude, this is crazy, man. Another quote. They were looking right into the ambulances transporting 2Pac and Suge. The moral of the story, real gangsters are nothing to fuck with. That's what Keefe D said. He said, no, he said, I'm sorry, my bad. Let me read that again. He said, there we were looking right into the ambulances transporting 2Pac and Suge. The moral of the story, real gangsters are nothing to fuck with. And that's a quote from Keefe D, right? Another quote. When you think about this, man, this is crazy, man. This is crazy. And Greg Kading had said, I get where the Las Vegas police feel a little bit disregarded, but there is no prosecution of Dwayne Davis had we not done the things that we did. That's a true statement. Have Greg Kading them didn't do what they did, there wouldn't be no prosecution of Keefe D at this particular time. You know what I mean? You can't deny that. However people may feel about that situation in regards to that, you can feel personally about that, but that is a true, actual fact, right? And when you think about this and you think about the whole situation, you think about Keefe D and everything that he said, and you think about the defense that he offered up, it's just sad, man. It's so sad when you think about it, right? Yeah. And I'm gonna give this to you, last but not least, right? This quote right here from Keefe D, right? Listen to this one. Keefe D said in his book, "We couldn't let no record company, studio gangsters do us like that. Had they lost their fucking rapping ass minds." And this is a quote from Keefe D's book. Once again, Keefe D said, "We couldn't let no record company, studio gangsters do us like that. Had they lost their fucking rapping ass minds." Keefe Dwayne Davis. Right? So basically, the information that I just provided you, Keefe D basically said on Death Row Chronicles, one of the producers or the director for Murder Rap was sitting in another room while Keefe D was being interviewed on Death Row Chronicles, right? And while he was being interviewed, the dude Dorsey, Mike Dorsey, actually was texting the producers questions to ask Keefe D with the hopes of getting the case opened again by Las Vegas Metro Police Department. Kevin Robinson, what's up? Darian, what's up? Suge. What you say, Suge Knight? Thanks, Darian. I appreciate the Suge Knight stated Reggie Wright, Sharitha Knight, and Kevin Gaines killed 2Pac trying to get to him. Never said nothing about Keefe D. Suge stated Reggie Wright, Sharitha. Well, like I said, once again, that's one part of it, Darian. We talked about that, Darian. That's one part of it, right? But that does not alleviate what Keefe D said about himself. If Suge Knight was on trial, then we could go there. We could talk about that, and we could, you know what I mean? That would actually mean something. But at this particular time, when you're talking about the producer of Murder Rap, right? And when they shot Death Row Chronicles, the producer for Murder Rap was in another room 50 feet away from Keefe D, texting the producers for Death Row Chronicles follow-up questions to ask Keefe D, in the hopes that Keefe D would talk about the things that he wasn't supposed to talk about, right? In hopes that Keefe D would incriminate himself, which he ultimately did. And not only that, Mike Dorsey said the plan was to do that. So think about it. When they're coming for you, they're coming for you. Keefe D just didn't think they was coming for him. He thought that he had made allies with the federal government as well as the state government. Also, think about it. Keefe D had did an interview with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department in September of 2009. Now, murder rap is taking place, or when they were recording it, was in 2017. MC Cole, what's up? Rain G4, London Bridges, Alchemist. He definitely sensationalized everything that happened, convicting himself, basically. Absolutely, the Alchemist. Thank you. I appreciate that. But more so than that, man, God, I mean, come on, man. You get a deal of a life. You talking about a deal of a lifetime involving one of the most high profile, and not only that, when the police, listen to this, man. When the police, when they picked Keefe D up, what was the statement? He was still talking in the back of the police car, right? He was having a conversation with the police officer in the police car when they picked him up, right? And the police, what the police officer asked Keefe D when they locked him up for the murder. They said, the police officer asked him, and as not as if he didn't already know what they had him for. The police officer asked Keefe D, what they got you for, man? And what did Keefe say? Keefe D say? Keefe D said, the biggest case in Las Vegas history. Are you kidding me? Once again, evidently he didn't understand from his lawyer that he had at the proffer agreement. And he also didn't understand from the lawyer that he had in the room with him when he shot Death Row Chronicles, right? If you're ever apprehended by the police, the best thing you can do is what? Keep your mouth shut. But when Keefe D got apprehended by the police for the murder of 2Pac Shakur with gang enhancements, and he got in the police car with the police officer after they were transporting him, I guess, to Las Vegas, the county jail. They asked Keefe D, the police officer asked Keefe D, what they got you for, man? And Keefe D volunteered the answer, the biggest case in Las Vegas history. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Well, Kevin Robinson, I mean, like I said, Keefe D has made accusations in regards to Puffy, right? But he has more made accusation in regards to the fact that he was involved, he was in the car, where he got the gun, and all those things. What's up, Randy Caldwell? Well, we with natural immunity, we don't know none of that. That'd be speculation. Like I said once again, but the fact of the matter is they're gonna use that tape, that interview from the proffer agreement in which Keefe D alleged that Puffy wanted 2Pac and Suge Knight handled. And Keefe D basically stated that Puffy said that he would give anything to get them guys handled. So that's gonna be a part of the evidence, and I think that's gonna be damaged, true or not, right? I think that's gonna be that's gonna be part of as far as Puffy's reputation goes. I think that's gonna be damaging to him because it's gonna bring up a whole lot of other things. Like you said, true or not, none of us were there. But if Keefe D saying it, and they'd have believed that everything that Keefe D said in his proffer agreement and getting the proffer, if they're gonna believe that that's true, then they got to take into consideration everything else that he's saying in regards to the Puffy thing and so on and so forth. So, yeah, man, it's very interesting, man. And I think at this particular point, it's gonna be it gets better. But like I said, this is new information. That new information where the guy Mike Dorsey was sitting in the other room while Keefe D was being interviewed for Death Row Chronicles, that TV show, right? in the other room, and he was giving the producers follow-up questions to ask Keefe D in the hopes and the plan to get the murder case opened again. And they did it. And it seems like the goal got accomplished. Keefe D is in the Clark County Detention Center facing the murder of 2Pac Shakur. G-Vo, go ahead, ask the question. What I doing? To be that nigga. Yeah, and see that's another thing that conflicts me, Kevin, when you talk about that, right? The thing about how, they probably have done things to other people for hearing about them telling and not actually telling, right? But here it is, when they get caught, the person who's supposed to be the head honcho in any situation, they do the telling. So as if it doesn't apply to them, it applies to everybody else under me, or who I'm giving work to or whatever. And that's not only in Keefe D's case. We see that in a lot of cases where people who's supposed to be the ones who's supposed to set the code and the G code and all of that, when they get caught, they wind up telling. Absolutely, Randy Caldwell. Who's roller wheels? Darian? What's roller wheels? At the mouth is going to be kid. Oh yeah. Okay, I know you're talking about Reggie. Yeah, absolutely. But like I said, once again, people looking for fame, looking for people, to be a part of that legend, right? For all of the wrong reasons. Absolutely, Dr. Easy Day. No, they didn't do anything that falls under entrapment, because once again, remember when they locked up Keefe D, they were locking him up for federal drug charges, right? And they were basically trying to see what he knew about the Biggie and 2Pac murder, right? And he was basically saying, I don't know nothing about the Biggie murder, but then he volunteered the information in regards to the 2Pac murder in order to try to secure some kind of deal, in which he did, right? In the proffer agreement, in which none of the statements that he gave could be used against him at that particular time if he would have just kept his mouth quiet, and that would have been that. But Keefe D didn't do that. So nothing falls under entrapment or anything like that. Now, they didn't entrap. If anything, he entrapped himself after the fact. You know what I mean? So it's like by keeping on talking. Well, Darian, I wouldn't say that. Like I said, once again, everything happens in its own time, as we see just recently with David Kenner. Now, like I said, I don't wish any bad on anybody, but we all are responsible for our actions. And David Kenner, on Friday, if David Kenner is now a lawyer that's on probation. You know what I mean? Unsupervised probation. David Kenner has been fined $5,000 for going against a judge's court order. And so everything, we all are responsible for our actions, man. And hopefully, nobody's out here just doing wrong to do wrong. And like I said, I think David Kenner initially did that, released the documents and the information to the reporters to try to get a one-up for his client Prize from the Fugees and trying to help him win his case. But evidently it didn't work. It backfired. So from that perspective, I mean, we just dealing with it from a real perspective, Like I said, like everything in time, man. Everybody, like Meg D, everybody, in time. David Kenner, David Kenner, in his case defending Prize from the Fugees and the fraud case and the election interference and lobbying case, lobbying for a foreign entity that Prize was faced with. Basically, he shared documents. There was a court order that the judge, like a gag order, if you will, some kind of gag order, right? He shared documents with the press that he wasn't supposed to, violating the judge's orders, and they charged him with that, with contempt of court, and charging him. They just gave him a year probation and a $5,000 fine, and David Kenner accepted responsibility for his actions. So, I ain't got no problem with that. He accepted responsibility for his actions like a man, And, you know, like I said, wish him well and whatever he's doing, you know? Yeah, I don't know nothing about Tayshaun Prince's brother being in Vegas with Orlando Anderson. Distinguished gentlemen, it once again, there's going to be evidence and information, I'm telling you, man, that we have not seen, that they're going to submit in this court case, that's going to blow people's mind, right? And so, you know, don't be surprised if they even got the shooting on tape. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they went back and had, you know, look back then for the cameras that were outside of the hotel at that particular time. I would not be surprised if they go up and down the strip and to every place that, you know, during that particular time and looking at cameras, man. I just wouldn't be surprised, you know? So like I said, you guys can look back at this, man. I just wanted to bring you that information, but yeah, it just gets like I said once again, nobody knew about Mike Dorsey being in the other room when Keefe D was filming Death Row Chronicles, giving the producers questions. Nobody really knew about that. At least I didn't. But now once again, you see the bigger picture of what's been going on. You see what I'm saying? And now you understand partially why Keefe D is in jail, because Keefe D thought he had full immunity when he only had a queen for a day agreement involving the situation with Greg Kading's them. So, you know what I mean? I'm gonna leave you guys with that, man. Like I say, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the donations, Darian, and everybody else who donated. I appreciate y'all guys, man. More importantly, just stay tuned. And like I say, and any new information that y'all might not be up on, I'm gonna come and give it to you, man. Said the shooter was left-handed. Yeah, like I said, it doesn't matter what the shooter was, because according to what the man down, it don't matter what the shooter was, but because according to Keefe D in the back of his book, he's the only living member. In the back of Keefe D book, they're basically saying he's the only living member as the witness to the 2Pac Shakur shooting. Hold on, that wouldn't be true also. The reason why I say that, because Suge Knight's still living too. Suge Knight was a witness to that shooting also. So Keefe D was basically, I guess, I don't know if he was feeling himself or he was trying to get that statement, that quote, to sell his book, you know, to be one of those selling points. But Keefe D is not the only living witness to the 2Pac Shakur shooting from that perspective. Suge Knight is a witness. Also, Edie from the Outlaws was a witness, and so on and so forth. So yeah, like I said, once again, yo, if you didn't really catch on to what I was saying earlier, you might want to watch this over. And like I said, thank you guys, man. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. One love, your boy DELRAY, straight gang.